if you want to learn the science of Kriya Pranayama Yoga, which is effectively how you channel the inner currents, subtle currents in your body, and work them up through the glands, through different breathing exercises and breathing, you change your breath, you change your consciousness, and use that to interact with the glands, which correspond in Eastern tradition to the chakras, or what the Rosicrucians refer to as psychic centers, which science can't measure.
Let's finish up this point on the Sphinx and some of the holes and crevices within it that we've been beating around the bush on right here, and then we're gonna take a quick break, go to the bathroom, and come back, and it's gonna be a second episode. Like we're flowing right here. So anyway, let's finish this point, and then we'll do that.
This is a long point because there's a lot of entrances to the Sphinx. So let's run through them quickly. This will be, if you want more detailed, you can go back to my YouTube channel, Anyextee, to check it out. So anyway, okay, hidden entrances into the Sphinx. And why is this important? Because of the Hall of Records. You're familiar with the Hall of Records?
Yes.
The Hall of Records, so basically, what you have is something known as the Hall of Records. And it was popularized by Edgar Cayce, the sleeping American prophet. Edgar Cayce would lay down, go to sleep, and then come back and give readings that would be recorded. And he would make predictions. He has all sort of prophecies. A lot of them didn't line up. But one of the things he said is that there's a Hall of Records beneath the paws of the Sphinx. And I used to believe it was a possibility. Back in 1996, my friends and I, we were making rap songs about the Hall of Records under the paws of the Sphinx, you know? But is there actually a Hall of Records under the Sphinx? And this whole idea that it was popularized by Edgar Cayce, right? Wrong. It actually predates Edgar Cayce. Okay, before Edgar Cayce, you have the first imperator of the Rosicrucian order, Amorc. That is the ancient mystical order of Rosicrucius, the Rosicrucian order Amorc, which is still active today. Their first imperator, Harvey Spencer Lewis, published a book, proprietary information at first. Now you can find it publicly. It was produced by and for the Rosicrucians, Symbolic Prophecy of the Sphinx. And within that book, he includes a diagram of what appears to be a temple beneath the Sphinx. He says it came from a Rosicrucian manuscript. Keep in mind, the Rosicrucians were in Egypt very early on. They were there during the time of eminent Egyptologist Salim Hussein, who was doing excavations at the Sphinx. Did they get information? Where did this come from? There's a lot of controversy around this, Julian, because there's another esoteric author who goes by the pen name El Eros. El Eros, yeah, and he had his own Knights Templar organization that he created. And a lot of these Knights Templar organizations, when you actually, I have a film on the, anyway, whatever.
Next episode.
Another episode. So, so the Hall of Records, originally the Hall of Mysteries, according to El Eros, years before the Edgar Cayce prophecy. And this hall and hidden temple under the Sphinx was published in Harvey Spencer Lewis's book, The Rose. How would Edgar Cayce know this? Well, we know because it's on record that he has this organization, ARE, and West Virginia, I believe. Anyway, there in the archives, it's marked in the 300s somewhere, we have evidence, proof that he had clients who were Rosicrucians. And Edgar Cayce was well aware of esoteric literature. So he most likely read Harvey Spencer Lewis's account or had access to the other account, which is El Eros. El Eros talked about a hall of mysteries under the Sphinx. He talked about a whole Masonic plan for Egypt. How did he know? He said it was channeled. He channeled. Channeled.
Oh.
Yeah.
Very trustworthy.
Yeah. So whenever there's channeling involved, I would take it with a grain of salt. Not to say I don't believe that humans have the ability to go within and connect with the divine.
I'm channeling an 18-inch cock right now.
What does it look like, Julian?
I don't have it. I'm sorry.
Well, it takes years of initiation through esoteric traditions.
That's right.
Meditations. And I mean, there's been some people that have done amazing things. Paramahansa Yogananda would be one who through meditation. You know Yogananda? Yogananda. Nope. Oh, man. You know who you have an iPhone?
Yeah.
You know who Steve Jobs is, right?
I know who Steve Jobs is.
At Steve Jobs' memorial service, he left one gift behind for his friends and a message, self-actualize. And that gift was, and when he passed, when he transitioned into the afterlife, there was only one book on his iPhone in the digital ebooks section. That book was Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda.
I don't remember this. Wow. I've studied Steve Jobs' life like crazy, but I don't remember.
Yeah, Steve Jobs developed the iPhone through meditation. He conceptualized a lot through meditation, and he was a big fan of Yogananda. Yogananda brought Kriya Pranayama Yoga meditation to the West.
He brought what?
Yeah, Kriya Pranayama Yoga meditation.
Okay.
And so it's in short, it's the science of Kriya Yoga. It's a tradition that goes back, Hindu tradition that goes back. And he learned from his mentor, Sri Yukteswar, and before him, Babaji. There's a whole lineage. Anyway, Yogananda came to the East. It was my hometown of Boston, and he traveled to Mexico. He settled in California, where they have today his organization, the which I'm a member of, Self-Realization Fellowship. If you want to learn the science of Kriya Pranayama Yoga, which is effectively how you channel the inner currents, subtle currents in your body, and work them up through the glands, through different breathing exercises and breathing, you change your breath, you change your consciousness, and use that to interact with the glands, which correspond in Eastern tradition to the chakras, or what the Rosicrucians refer to as psychic centers, which science can't measure. But if it's a whole process. The process is to ultimately channel that energy up to your back, through your spine, to have what's known as a Kundalini experience.
Yeah.
The serpent goes up the spine.
I know that one.
You're shaking, you're bringing the energy up to your pineal gland, your third eye.
Yeah.
But it's not, everybody talks about the third eye. This is your mystical eye. You close your eyes, you can still see, you can still remember and create, right? You have inner vision.
That's right.
Right? So not limited to your sight and your senses. You also have your hypothalamus and your pituitary gland. And they don't really teach us a lot about these things in school. The glands are so, even in modern science today, like we know a bit, but we don't know everything about the glands. Esoteric traditions, like the Rosicrucians, focus on teaching about the glands because, it was important for the mystical process. Your hypothalamus is and your pituitary gland is what's going to effectively help you to achieve, you could say, altered states of consciousness. Also, we have what's known as von Economo neurons. There's a heavy concentration, dense concentration of von Economo neurons named after von Economo in the front of our head. The whole idea is to suppress those neurons, to open up a connection. This is gnosis, to channel, to receive a divine connection. It's like your brain is a projector. You go into the light of the projector to receive. It's not that your brain, people will be like, oh, when you meditate, you got to close out the monkey mind chatter. You have to stop what's going on. You can never stop thinking, but you can move things around in a way, according to these traditions, to access. This is what Indian rishis and yogis have been doing for years.
So you got into this because you were saying this dude was channeling by the fucking poles.
Well, I got into Yogananda because of Steve Jobs, because the whole thing is Steve Jobs' channel. He wanted everyone to know about Yogananda and his work. Yogananda's in my top 3 must-read books.
Okay.
I
might have to check that
Autobiography of a Yogi changed my life.
Yeah.
You might need to suspend some of your imagination in the beginning, but go through the book. The thing that really does it for me is Yogananda died consciously. When you look into the eyes of Paramahansa Yogananda, when you look into the eyes of George Ivanovich Gurdjieff, you're going to know. You're going to see something, and you're going to realize this is a realized individual. There's something different about them. Yogananda would teach Kriya Pranayama Yoga, and he died conscious. He chose the moment of his death. He said, and before an audience, I am going to die now. Dropped, died, and his body didn't decompose.
Whoa.
Look up Paramahansa Yogananda.
All right. Yeah. I'm going to have to check this out afterwards. But who was the guy channeling?
So back to the channeling. I'm glad you keep me on track here, Julian.
Yeah, I got to. So, I'm trying to help you. I know you got to go to the bathroom.
My whole point is there's meditative practices which I find very interesting. I practice meditation.
I saw you doing it right before
I did the interview. So I try to make time to meditate every day. If I had it my way and life didn't get in the way, the 2 things I love most, reading and meditation. But if I had to choose one, it would be meditation. I love to be in a constant state of meditation, cosmic bliss, connecting with.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So anyway, and when I say meditation and yoga, I'm not talking about these poses. Those poses are like, they're for specific currents in your body. There's a whole science to it. Anyway, so I was just trying to make a disclaimer that, like, I don't want to turn people off and think like, all channeling is fake. I will say that I think a vast majority of people that claim to be channeling are faking the funk to sell books, get attention. Absolutely. Maybe they believe it themselves. You can never tell another person's personal experience. So I don't want to judge anyone, but I will say that there are a lot of authors who tend to use channeling as evidence for whatever it is they're presenting. Like the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Dorey will channel them. Anyway, so channeling isn't really verifiable. You know,
So
it's
this
hard
guy's channeling isn't,
Yeah.
you know, we can't take that as.
Who are we even talking about? Who was channeling?
It was
I
the
forget.
guy.
Oh,
yeah.
Eli Rose. So
Yeah.
Eli Rose channeled this Masonic plan. And there's some controversy. Who came first, Harvey Spencer Lewis's book or Eli Rose? We're not exactly certain, but it's quite possible that, you know, one influenced the other. We don't know with certainty. But anyway, long story short, then you get, you know, fast forward almost a decade, you have what everyone knows is Edgar Cayce. He's the one that the Hall of Records, they think originates with him. It doesn't. It originates with the Rosicrucians and with Eli Rose. But Edgar Cayce said there's a Hall of Records under the Sphinx. So it set this big craze off where everyone wanted to go and check beneath the Sphinx. There's been multiple studies where they found cavities around the Sphinx, natural cavities beneath the Sphinx. When Dr. Robert Schoch and Thomas Dobeke did the seismic refraction survey around the Sphinx, they detected a big anomaly north of the Sphinx, and they believe that there's something that appears to look like a chamber. And this is Schoch's interpretation. He says because it appears to be right angles, and there are supposed to be, or it's believed that there's not any exact right angles in nature, although you can find some instances, you know, but there's not supposed to be angles in nature. So the whole idea is, well, look, if this looks like a right angle, it must be a subterranean structure, which gives credit to Edgar Cayce's Hall of Records. I mentioned Mark Lehner earlier. He's the foremost Egyptologist when it comes to the Sphinx. He did this big study, the official one on the Sphinx. He got into this, like me, he came into this through the alternative side. His parents were a part of the Edgar Cayce organization. In fact, that organization funded his education to become an actual Egyptologist, archaeologist, so that he could go find this Hall of Records. And he did that. And after he looked at everything in the Sphinx, he came to the realization that, you know, it's not what they say it is. And now he's all the way on the other side of the field. And he's one of the main proponents with Zahi that, you know, and that's what often happens. That's like me. I came in through the fascination and the sensationalism, but then I wanted to study and dig deeper. And when you look at the stuff, you realize that it's not all, you know, what it's cracked up to be.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.